And finally, Republican candidate for next month's U.S. presidential election, Donald Trump, has again accused the Biden administration of diverting hurricane relief funds to assist migrants. Trump, who's campaigning in North Carolina, has not provided any evidence for his claim. Meanwhile, his Democratic rival, Vice President Kamala Harris, has reiterated her accusation that Trump is a threat to democracy.
The consequences of him ever being in the White House again are brutally serious. And take it from the people who know him best. His former chief of staff when he was president, 2 former defense secretaries, his national security advisor, and of course his vice president, who have all in one way or another used the word that he is unfit to be president again and is dangerous.
Recapping the top story, more than 200 people have been evacuated in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metropolitan Municipality in the Eastern Cape due to flooding after torrential rains lashed the area overnight. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Insurance Essential. Get a quote today. SMS CAR to 43187.
Are you blowing your paycheck on car insurance every month? Monica, 39 from Three Rivers, pays just 1,515 Rand a month for her 2018 BMW 320i.
None of the insurance companies has come near to the price I'm paying. I am happy at insurance. I'm going nowhere.
SMS out to 30754 now for a quick quote that could save you hundreds every month. You'll also find out about included benefits like panic assistance and help it out 24-hour roadside assistance. Yusuf, 45 from Tegadal, pays just 700 Rand a month for his 2021 VW Polo.
Helped it out, took the family up to go and see the snow, and I got stuck. The service was quick, even though it was in a very remote area. Absolutely phenomenal service from our insurance.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
The Northwest Provincial Legislature will host public hearings on Older Persons Amendment Bill 2002 on the 23 October 2024 in Ngaka District at Moshana Community Hall in Zeerost, in Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District, Goedgevonden Community Hall, Ventersdorp, JB Max Local Municipality, in Dr. Ruth Sohomutsi Mumpati at Dipudi Community Hall, Dipudi Village, Kagisano Molopo Local Municipality, and in Bojanala District at Kraalhoek Community Hall, Kraalhoek, Moses Kotana Local Municipality. All hearings start at 10.
Insurance Essential is unlike any other car insurance product. It's specifically designed and priced for older cars with the essentials you need. Get up to 1 million Rand liability cover. That means if you cause an accident, the other car could be covered for up to 1 million Rand. And claims are paid out in cash, so you can go to your own panel beater. Get saving with Insurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 Rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP, T's, C's, and information online.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
I'll never forget that Saturday night. I was working at a community health center in the sprawling Cape Town township of Khayelitsha. Typically for a Saturday night, it was hectic. I worked with another doctor, and together we saw dozens of patients through the course of the night. Most of them were drunk and injured in some way. One of the patients that we did manage to stabilize was a man in his early 30s. He was brought in at around 3 in the morning with a stab wound to his back. Our priority on first seeing him was to stop the bleeding and to rehydrate him. It was particularly important to rehydrate him because he was extremely drunk, so chances are he was already dehydrated before his injury. After we'd stabilized him, I prepared his referral notes and I made arrangements for an ambulance to take him to a secondary level hospital I saw other patients after that particular patient, and by morning I was getting ready to go home. That's when I heard him in the room next to mine. He was shouting at one of the nurses and swearing at her. "I've been left here to die," he kept shouting. And he didn't seem to believe her when she told him that he'd already been attended to. So I went to intervene. I tried to talk some sense into him, but he was having none of it. He continued to shout and swear, so I walked away to finish off my handover notes. My mind was on getting home, taking a shower, and going straight to bed. But just as I was driving out of the hospital gates, I saw him again. He was standing across the road trying to wave down a taxi. He wasn't wearing a top, and the dressing that we'd applied to his wound was soaked with blood. He'd clearly just stormed out of the hospital in a huff. My initial instinct was to go to him because he really needed to be in hospital, but I didn't do that. Instead, I sat in my car and watched from a distance. Taxi after taxi passed without stopping, and each time he would shout after it and wave his arms frantically. Eventually, a taxi did stop. He got in, and it drove off. I knew in that moment that it was time to quit medicine. That's right, I quit. I left clinical medicine, and I shut the door firmly behind me. It wasn't easy walking away from my profession. I felt shame and guilt for having walked away. I wondered whether I'd been foolish and naive. How could I have spent so long studying and then chosen to leave it all behind? Was it all wasted? The right to well-being, it's a right we all have as human beings. It takes courage to really look at your life and to see when things aren't working, to acknowledge it. Believe me when I say this, it's not easy when you realize that some dreams must be allowed to die. But out of letting go, something else becomes available. When I chose to walk away from the medical profession, I gave myself a second chance, a chance to thrive instead of suffering.
That is Maria Padime. She is a medical doctor, and as you heard there, had to switch things up, left her career as practicing in medicine, and is now also an award-winning author based in Cape Town. You're listening to The Talking Point. Welcome to the show on this Tuesday morning. A pleasure to be in your company as we lead the conversation together right through to midday on The Talking Point. So, what a day it is. And, of course, we're keeping a close eye on the weather situation in different parts of the country. Already concerning reports coming out of the Eastern Cape, in particular in Gqeberha, Kariga. This is where we have already now hundreds of people being evacuated as a result of heavy flooding that has hit parts of that particular area. So what we'll be doing throughout the open line, we'll be taking your calls. Give us a sense of what is happening. I know that we've got a very big listener base out in Gqeberha, and I'd love to hear from you this morning. How have you been affected by this flooding? Give us a sense of what is happening on the ground. It will also assist in terms of officials that are busy making decisions around deployments, especially for individuals that are also trapped in certain areas due to the heavy flooding. We understand that, some roads have been completely destroyed by the floods that have hit that part of the country. So I'll take your calls on 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial, 086 000 2032, on the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107, especially also for residents then in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro. Please get in touch with us. Let us know how things are unfolding. Are you getting the emergency responses that you need? And also keep a close eye, continue to keep a close eye on what the South African Weather Service is reporting, particularly for the anticipated weather in that part of the country. All right, so coming up on the show today, it is a Tuesday, so We'll be talking finance with Brian Hirsch in the second hour of the show, as we always do. And this morning, we're looking at young people and developing investment strategies for young people. So that's what we'll be tackling in our second hour of the show. And then the final hour, we'll zoom in on drunk driving. It is Transport Month in the country, and we know that drunken driving is one of the lead causes of accidents on South Africa's roads. But how do we begin to deal with this issue? I would say that it's not even about just the campaigns anymore, because we certainly don't have a shortage of campaigns that educate people, that raise awareness about the dangers of drunken driving, and yet they don't seem to have a full impact in terms of changing behavior. So what is it that we really need to do in order to change the behavior of drivers? So even for those who are willing to risk it, right? You've had a glass of wine, or maybe you've had a beer, and you're thinking about, should I drive, shouldn't I drive? What is it really that is going to affect your decision making from getting in the car, getting behind the wheel, versus not doing it? Clearly, even the threat or the risk of being involved in accidents is not enough of a deterrent to those motorists who drive drunk. So then how can we begin to deal with this problem in a more meaningful manner? So we will certainly get your views on that in the final hour of the show. One of the things I also wanted to talk about for Finance with Brian Hirsch, and it's just some interesting data that has been released out of the banks, and it's looking at how much money people have left in their current accounts the day before payday. And we'll chat a little bit about it with Brian in the second hour. But what I thought we could do for the open line is that you could also start sending through your messages. And this is data specifically collated by Standard Bank, which says that almost half of salary earners are left with less than 1,000 rand or have a negative balance before payday. And this is largely looking at the data around middle income earners. So almost half are left with less than 1,000 rand or even have negative balances before the day before payday. How much money do you have left in your account before payday? And it's not just unique to middle income earners, even those that have, your private wealth accounts. Some of them also are left with practically nothing the day before payday. So please send through your WhatsApp voice notes. Let's test the theory. How much do you have left before payday? I won't tell you what the producers answered to that question. I'll tell you in the second hour. I'll tell you what they said. All I can say is that I've learned that once you have children, your life changes. So the idea of having 0.0000 is maybe not something you play around with as much as you used to before the added responsibility. So I'll tell you what Lebo and Kanya said when they answered the question. Please let me know. I want to have a conversation about it with Brian as well in the second hour of the show. All right, I'm taking your calls. It is the open line, 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial, 086 000 2032. Remember, it is your national roundtable. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Are you blowing your paycheck on car insurance every month? Monica, 39 from Three Rivers, pays just 1,515 Rand a month for a 2018 BMW 320i.
None of the insurance companies has come near to the price I'm paying. I am happy at Outsurance. I'm going nowhere.
SMS out to 30754 now for a quick quote that could save you hundreds every month. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Fizzy drinks and fruit juices are making our kids sick. Sugar is dumped into their bodies with every sip, leading to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes as they get older. We need to protect our kids from all sugary drinks. Demand a stronger health promotion levy now. Sign the petition on healer.org. That's HEALA.org.
The citizens of Manchester are highly motivated to cruise with a convincing victory against Southampton.
It's brilliant from Grealish, and Guardiola's up there as well, and City lead.
Meanwhile, the Saints are pumped up to fight for the entire match duration away from home.
It's flicked on, and again the Saints have the effort, and this time he does score, and we're back in the game.
This is the Premier League. Catch the exciting contest between reigning champions Manchester City FC and Southampton FC on Saturday 26 October at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
All right, let me start off then on the open line in Gqeberha. Clinton Dinisa, good morning to you. I understand that this is your hometown. Give us a sense of where exactly in Gqeberha you're based and what has been happening there.
Good day, Lizzie. You're speaking to Clinton Dinisa. I'm in Mission Bay in Gqeberha. We call it Water T1. So what happens here, we are under flood. There's houses under flood. Less than the three houses, at least 10, 18. And then you have more than 15 houses who are under flood. We call it check houses. We call it stick houses. So, and also now there's a pole that is busy burning. So as you can hear, someone just called it me now. But it's fine, I will attend that later. So yeah, so what happens? So what happens is we're in Gqeberha, as you said, we're in Mission Bay. So there's houses are underwater. There's freezes of people, damage. You have what you call it, the TVs who have been damaged because the water is so high that you as a human being cannot stand in that water.
Clinton, it sounds like quite an alarming situation to find yourselves in as residents. How have residents been responding to it? How are you responding to it?
I'm trying my best. I'm trying to assist where I can assist. As you can hear, people are calling me, shouting at me because the Council of the Word is not active enough and me as a ward committee. So people are crying at me. They're crying at me, so there's no way. I'm running around. I'm calling the mayor's office. I'm calling disaster management because we are busy now preparing a church where people will go and sleep over, where at least they will be they have something to eat and at least a mattress and so on. I'm trying my best.
So, Clinton, for members of the community that are calling you, asking for assistance, what exactly are they asking for? What do they need?
Okay. At this moment, what they can assist them with is blankets and mattresses because they are going to a church, they will sleep at the church. So and the water, the houses are flooded with water. So there's no way that a human being can sleep into their house because there's no way that there's no sleeping place.
And in terms of the residents, are many of them easily agreeing to leave their houses to go to a community hall? Because sometimes what we see, even in these instances, is that people want to stay in their homes and try and save as much as they can, even though it is quite difficult to do that because the houses are, at least a lot of them, as you're describing, submerged.
Yes. Even here in Jackson, we have a neighborhood watch. So people have agreed to go and sleep by the church because they know that there's no way that here in Jackson your house will be breaking, your stuff will be stolen because we have a neighborhood watch who's active on the ground every day. So at night we're patrolling. So there's no way that your stuff will be stolen and so on.
All right, Clinton Dinisa, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed with what is happening there. As you heard, Clinton in Missionville in Gqeberha also giving us a sense of how exactly his community has been affected by these floods. Let me bring onto the line as well Zwabantu James. Zwabantu, good morning.
To you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Of course,
Yes.
a difficult morning for you and some of the residents out in Gqeberha. Give us a sense of what's happening where you are. Where are you?
I'm located in Woma Primary School near the airport. It's a low-lying area which is extremely flooded now because we had the heavy rains throughout the night. The whole yard of school is filled with water, pools of water around.
Mm.
Now, we were forced then to ask the authorities to keep the kids safe at home, but we're still at work as teachers. So the situation is standing as that. Luckily for the high school, their school is a little bit high, in a higher slope compared to us. They may be able to have their exams going for grade 12.
Mm.
However, I think it will be an alternative to change the writing times. But their writing venue is still okay in the upper area.
When you look around, Zwabantu, in terms of the damage that has been done, I know that there've also been concerns around traveling, especially for air travelers, where they have to watch the weather conditions quite closely. But how extensive would you say the damage has been getting from your home to school this morning? What have you seen?
Yeah, it could be a number of millions because the roads are also damaged. Similarly, the way to get to the airport is the roads are filled with water. As of now, you can't quantify the amount to rebuild or to fix, but there's an extensive damage.
So effectively, anybody that's trying to get to that airport this morning needs to just build in that extra time, if I'm hearing you clearly.
Build in the extra time and extreme caution.
Mm.
Yes.
All right. Zwabantu, anything else you want to add before I let you go?
No, there's nothing I will add as of now because we are still stuck. We are still stuck in the pool of water, and the rain does not seem to be going away.
Mm.
It may be clearing maybe sometime during the day. Thanks.
All right. Okay, I'm going to ask you, please keep in touch with us. Give us a sense of what is happening. Of course, it is important during a time like this. Zwabantu James giving us his own reflections. He, of course, as you heard, is at Walmer Primary School, and they've had to close the school's doors this morning simply because they are unable to function due to the flooding that has taken place there. Robert, good morning. You are calling us from East London, Robert.
Yes, good morning, Cathy. Thanks
Yes.
for taking my call.
Sure.
Yes. About flooding, I grew up in PE. I'm 73 now. I'm living in East London now. 1968, 1st of September, PE had the biggest flood ever. They had a whole year's rain on a Sunday night. I just started working.
Robert, the connection to you is terrible. I'm going to ask you to try and turn away from the wind because it's really interrupting our ability to hear you.
Is it better?
Yes, much better.
Okay, I've moved down the steps. And PE had a whole year's rainfall overnight. It was a Sunday night. Woke up the Monday morning and PE was washed away.
Sure.
It was crazy. Happy Valley, I don't know if you know PE.
Yes, I do.
Happy Valley area was washed into the sea. There was a building there, a 3-story building that was washed away. And that was in 1968. So flooding is nothing new, but what I want to bring up, because of infrastructure not being maintained, drainages, etc., you have worse flooding. That's one of the big reasons why you got local flooding in certain areas which shouldn't actually happen. For instance, I'm living in East London, the bridge, the Steve Biko Bridge that goes over the Buffalo River. When we have rains like it's flooded now, You have to take a detour because the drains are blocked. Simple as that.
Yeah, the bridge has been an area of great concern, Robert.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of people have been told to stay away from the bridge. Some are even saying that the road on the bridge is cracking. We don't know how true this is.
No, I haven't heard the cracking part,
but yeah,
it gets flooded.
Yeah.
And also, while we on the subject like that, Carte Blanche interviewed East London's mayor, I don't know if it's last Sunday night or the previous Sunday night. I don't have internet, so I had to watch it on YouTube. And our mayor reads the Daily Dispatch to get the latest news in East London. Like, for instance, our crematorium is not working in East London. So they have to take bodies elsewhere to be burnt.
Yeah.
So our mayor is not on top of it. That's why also these areas with these mayors that are not on top of it and city managers, etc., that they're not on the ground. They don't seem to worry.
Yeah, Robert.
So I don't know.
Thanks for calling in, giving us
Thank
a
you very
bit of
much.
insight.
Thank you.
Do you remember how high the water levels were? Okay, Robert is gone. But as you heard Robert making reference to 1968, saying that as a former resident of Port Elizabeth, at least the then Port Elizabeth, he remembers a time where the city was flooded, and he thinks those were the worst rains that he can recall in recent memory. All right, it's 9:30. We're going to continue with the talking point. It is your open line, 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial, 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107.
Good morning. In the headlines, torrential rains have affected electricity supply in many parts of the Nelson Mandela Bay Metropolitan Municipality in the Eastern Cape. Flights to and from the George Airport in the Garden Route region of the Western Cape have resumed. The Airports Company of South Africa says flights were cancelled yesterday due to adverse weather conditions. And Action SA members of the Gauteng legislature are seeking reasons for being blocked from entering the Sebokeng Hospital in the Mfuleni municipality in Gauteng during a surprise oversight visit yesterday. I'll have details on these and other stories at 10.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM. SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
Yeah, good morning, Cathy. You know, given what is happening with the informal sector in our economy, I saw a tweet about the requirement of a South African to open a spaza shop or a small business there in Pakistan. I know the Pakistan government needs you to, first of all, you must register the business, obtain a work visa, partner with a local business person, then hire local employees. Now, why is it that these people, when they come here, they expect to be treated differently? Yeah, when people complain, we are labeled as xenophobia. Yeah, I just don't understand. Yeah, this is Leonard from Northwest.
Good morning, SAFM. Katie, hi, and your producer and all the listeners. Katie, I like to say this today, man. Can you please invite one of the person maybe who in charge about the housing there in Gauteng? Because ever since I was registered for the housing in Ekurhuleni in Katlehong for 2017, up until now, I don't know nothing about what is happening about that project. Because it seems like those people, they said, no, you must register. Because this project is for those people who are renting, you know, those people who are staying at the backyard. So since we are waiting, nothing is happening. So please, man, Katie, please. Thank you from Sia.
This study is correct, says Cathy. Most of the pay earning working group towards the end of the month, they don't have money. Some are not even having 500 or 200. Hence, they go and borrow using the reason, "Hi, Mungana, I will give it to you tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. I'm earning."
Shalom Cathy, this is wisdom. I believe there's something that's not right in our society and as a nation in terms of responsibility. Government have a responsibility. I believe us as society as well, we have a responsibility. But the way I see it is like our responsibility has tend to be complaining, lamenting, crying, pointing fingers, criticizing every day, and we do absolutely nothing. So we seem to point everything to government official. I'm not saying they must not be held accountable in certain areas, but even ourselves as society, we must be held accountable to things that are supposed to be done by us. If we continue in this way, it means we'll end up calling government officials to come and to do our beds and to cook for us in our kitchen. Seriously, something is not right with us. So we need to change that kind of mentality and take responsibility. Thank you. Bye.
Good morning, Cathy. It's Mtunte Ben. I hope you can take it. Yes, I also eager to hear what she's now doing, except that she's an author. Because she said that she left her profession, medicine profession. So eager, what exactly is she doing now? And even you yourself, you said she's a medical doctor. So, yeah, can you please tell me what she's doing now, Mtunte?
Hi, Kathy. You know, when it comes to zero balance, I think it was better when I started working. We were getting paid on pay slips, not these brown envelope, the pay slip, the white one. I used to keep the coins there. Keep the coins, take the papers and throw the pay slip under the mattress with the coins, only to find that at the end of the year, there's some coins there. If I empty them or if I have need of money, I'll go to it and get it. But when it comes to bank account, no ways. Remember, the people who are working are just earning a hand to mouth. Thank you. This is Anele Ndebeni.
Thanks for those WhatsApp voice notes. Yeah. Mam Zanele, do you want to tell me more about that bank under the mattress that you have going on? You might have something in common with somebody else I know. In terms of the doctor, what is she doing today? I see there are quite a number of you that are asking that question. We're going to probably have to actually have her on the show, on the open line, to answer that question for you. Because I know she's an author, an award-winning author at that. But I can't tell you more than that. What I understand is that she's no longer practicing as a medical doctor. But just because she's not practicing, it doesn't mean she loses her title of being a medical doctor, because she still earned it. So, yeah, I can't answer all the questions that you have. Maria Padime, if you're listening to the show, please also feel free to get in touch with us. Let our listeners out of their misery and help answer some of the questions. Sandla, you're calling from KZN. Good morning. Good morning, Sandla. Okay, what we're going to do is that we'll take a quick break. I'm back with more of your calls in a moment.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All right, we continue the conversation on The Talking Point. Let's try that again. Sandla in KZN, good morning.
Good morning, my sister. I'm sorry, my sister.
No, don't worry, Sandla. The problem wasn't on your side. It was on our side, but it's all sorted now.
Oh, thank you, my sister. My sister Katie, I would like to make some few comments about the Freedom Charter and all and this thing and the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
The way I view these two documents regarding of us achieving democracy, a Constitution, the way I view it, was a document which was formulated to ensure that South Africans continue to be the slaves. And this thing, the Freedom Charter, was a document that was formulated to ensure that everyone in South Africa, in Africa, get to benefit and get to sustain themselves without relying on government and relying on other people to enslave them so they can make ends meet to survive. When you look at Clause 3, it says, of Freedom Charter, it says we must distribute the resources that are taken from beneath the soil and share it amongst the people. When you look at Clause 4, that was Clause 4, Clause 3, it means, Clause 4 means this thing, the land must be distributed so that the people can get to benefit from the land so that they can sustain themselves using the land.
Sandla, I'm going to ask you to please, if you can, try and get to the point that you want to make.
The point I want to make, my sister, you see, on the Freedom Charter, it's a quickest way and the easiest way to get to democracy. With the Constitution, it's a long route with a lot of tactics which are holding us back to get to the straight point of where we're supposed to be getting.
Okay, so basically, if we had full implementation of the Freedom Charter, then in terms of land, we'd be where the hopes of many people in terms of acquiring land, we'd be there now rather than perhaps sometime in the future.
Yes, my sister.
Okay.
You see, because of saying we must do away with the Freedom Charter and align ourselves with the global economic world, it's not helping us.
Okay.
It's only serving those who are rich and also the same tech people who want to be rich, making us slaves.
Okay. All right. Sandla, I hear you loud and clear. Sandla out in KZN. I guess on the other hand, though, our country's constitution had the Freedom Charter as its blueprint. But again, it comes down to the implementation of such policy and alignment around such policy, especially when it comes to the voices that believe in the change it can effect for our society. Stanley, you're in Pretoria. Good morning. All right, let me see what we can do. Stanley, still on the... are you able to hear me, Stanley? Okay, I'm going to ask you just to bear with us this morning. Our system seems to be having a bit of issues. Let me try again. Stanley, good morning.
Yes.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm all right, Stanley. Apologies for that. We have a few gremlins in the system, it seems, on the phone line this morning, but we're going to try and work on it as we continue with the program. Yes, what do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about this thing. I'm not funny. They say it's funny. They switch off electricity for people. If you miss your payment, like I missed my payment for 2 months while I was waiting for my blue card money to come in. And when you go there to say, guys, I've missed, because on my pole, Cathy, on the pole, they connect 4 houses. And 3 of the houses, they are not paying, but they have electricity. And I'm the only one who's paying. When the electricity is down, I'm the one who's supposed to call. But when I miss payment, I went there, they say I must pay 2.5, which is the 60%. But I say, I've been paying. It's only now that I'm waiting for UIF to pay. And they say, no, you need to pay 2.5 so that we can reconnect for you. And by that time, look, I've got kids who are writing exams now who need electricity. If they study with the carers, so these people, they're being unfair to us who are paying because, for example, they know that I'm paying. Because why can they stop? When I buy electricity, it says, thank you for paying. So they know that I'm paying. But those who don't pay, my 3 neighbors who are in the same pole, they have electricity. They don't even come to cut off the illegal connection.
That's what I was going to ask, Stanley, is that you are paying electricity. You're paying rather for your electricity, illegally connected, but your neighbors who have connected illegally and are bridging that electricity, they don't get cut off. Is that what you're saying?
No, yes, they don't get cut off. And even when you report, when you say, guys, I'm paying, and the people are not, yesterday this sister told me something. I told her, like, look, and in my vicinity, we are 4 on the pole, but I'm the only one who's paying, and those others are not paying. They've breached it, and I've been reporting it, and that sister said to me, why we're not supporting it? By that time, it will lead me to me also to breach.
Yeah, it is quite unfair, and I can understand why it's making you disgruntled, Stanley.
Yeah, because I'm paying, but I cannot, just because I missed payment, I need to pay a lot of money for them to reconnect me so that I can buy electricity again. They don't want to understand, but for those who are not paying, they don't even come and say, okay, we can see you are the only one who's paying, because they can see on the pole who's buying electricity every month. So why they see those 3 houses, they're not buying electricity? Why don't they come and cut them off? Because, and the neighbors, they'll tell you, why not the Kiralokoa, so what happened there? And by that time, you just want to be a good citizen because you know that the money goes to helping you again when, in terms of helping ESCOM for load shedding and stuff.
Yeah.
But those who breached.
And Stanley, I mean, it shouldn't be exceptional that you actually want to pay for your electricity bill, right? So the fact that they say, it's just, I mean, it's unnecessary. So unnecessary. Like, can we all not step up to our responsibility as citizens? When you want electricity, let's pay for the electricity.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, because I want my kids to study under, with electricity that is legally connected, but now they can't study. They study with candles, and it's risky for a person to study. Sometimes you say you cross night with a candle, and anything can happen.
Okay.
You can just fall asleep.
All right, Stanley, thanks for calling in, raising that issue. I wonder if anybody else in the city of Tshwane has a similar problem. Neighbors that are connected illegally don't get cut off, but you as a paying citizen, when you default, as you heard Stanley, he says he defaulted for 2 months and his electricity was cut off, but his neighbors that are connected illegally don't ever get cut off. Surely that's not the way things are supposed to be. David, you're in Pietermaritzburg. Good morning.
I heard one listener saying that it's a pity that even South Africans that own tech shops, they also buy from where foreigners who own these tech shops. So I got worried that currently we're complaining about the foreigners. So tech shops in areas like Naledi are closed. And South Africans will run those tech shops and go and buy from the same warehouses or suppliers that foreigners are buying from. And the same challenge that you're experiencing of poisonous food will happen. So my suggestion is that why is government not focusing on conducting inspections from the source or the suppliers, which are warehouses? And again, I think it would become easy for them, since government they have a shortage of staff who are in the environmental inspectors, So I think government should rather focus on the suppliers who are warehouses. For me, I think it will help us as South Africans. Thank you.
Okay, David, thanks for that call. I think you make a really great point that you have to hit where it matters most. And if you're able then to target the wholesalers who are supplying some of these products to the SMEs, to the spaza shops, then you are dealing with the problem on a much larger scale. But the question is, are they willing to identify who these wholesalers are? Again, you have a challenge where in some instances, some of the goods that are being sold just arrive as cargo from wherever they have been bought from in the rest of the world. And it does create more, it does create part of the challenge that I think we're dealing with in this country. But certainly, there has to be attempts to trace down those wholesalers. It is the open line, your National Roundtable. I'm still taking your calls on the open line. 086 000 2032 is the number to dial. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107. Of course, we're still keeping a close eye on the situation in Gqeberha for those of our listeners that are in that part of the country, in the Eastern Cape. Please get in touch with us. Let us know how things are unfolding in as far as the flooding is concerned and how you've been affected by it.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
74 million rand in total estimated Powerball and Powerball Plus jackpots could be your ticket to the big millions this Tuesday. Play Powerball for an estimated 15 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 59 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Panda Pusher Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All right, it's still the open line, taking your calls on 086 000 2032. Lloyd, you are in Sandton. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Welcome to the show. You're a first-time caller, hey, Lloyd?
First-time caller, yes. And I just want to let everyone know that I was born in 93, so I've had 1 year of apartheid to deal with.
Well,
Listen,
I would hardly say. I mean, barely, Lloyd,
Yeah.
barely. But okay,
Barely.
okay. You're a born
No,
free.
listen.
You're a born free. Go for
I'm
it.
a born free in a way, yes. But I'm telling you something, I'm not very free because I am still unemployed with my degree, with my experience and everything. So the one thing I really want to address is ANC supporters. Honestly, what is in your minds? How can you vote for ANC or any denomination of the ANC? Maybe what we can do is open the lines up for people and let us know exactly why do you vote for the ANC. How can you vote for Zuma, who is illiterate, and then you want to question why all our children can't read and write? Does that make any sense? We have police that take bribes. Yes, you want to ask me something?
You know that Zuma's not part of the ANC anymore, ne?
Well, not anymore. But when he was part of the ANC, people used to go mad for him. So I'm saying, if you are voting for the ANC or any denomination of the ANC, which is MK and EFF, obviously, why do you vote for these people? They have brought nothing to this country. The ANC or whoever it is, they want to change the names of the roads built by the apartheid government, but the ANC didn't build any roads for us. There is no jobs for us. People are poor, and we are going to see another riot if we, as South Africans, you see, we can't blame idiots for being idiots, but we can blame ourselves for putting these people in power all the time.
So, Lloyd, you are, if my maths is not too off, you would be how old this year?
32.
32. So you're 32 years old this year. You sound very frustrated with the state of affairs. Tell me, what did you study? What has been your experience with the job market currently?
Thank you for asking. So I did a Bachelor of Social Science at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, and I majored in media and business management. And I did most of my groundwork is in print media, and I've spoken to the poorest of the poorest people in the country. I have been in their homes, I've eaten with them, I see how they live. And 30 years on, for people to still not have water and still wait for tankers, and sometimes those tankers don't even come, we are not going in the right direction.
Is there a political party currently that you feel would be able to address these socioeconomic issues better than the ANC has?
Absolutely not. And this GNU thing is such a waste of time. Honestly, by the time they even figure out which direction is up, my grandchildren's grandchildren will have grandchildren and they will be unemployed.
So what's the solution then, Lloyd?
I think we as South Africans need to decide on a better government and stop putting people in power if we don't believe they can deliver. Also, we need to judge people on their caliber and education and by the things they say. When I see ANC politicians on the news and speaking about things, it's like they don't even know what they're speaking about. And let me tell you something, they dress very well. For people who don't know what's going on in this country, they've got the best watches, the best cars, the best private security. And I don't know why, because they do nothing. If you can't give people water, you should not be in that position.
And Lloyd, I'm just interested now. Did you vote in the elections in May?
I will never not vote in this country.
Mm-hmm.
I will never not vote.
Okay. I think we've heard you loud and clear, Lloyd. Heard you loud and clear.
Maybe what we can also do is, if you ever want to have a special edition of this topic, I'll be in the studio with you and I would just love to speak to the country. What exactly are we thinking about? Do we have a plan to go forward? Why do we keep voting for people who can't read and write? and then we want to question why our children can't read and write.
Okay. Lloyd, you've said a mouthful. Lloyd out in Sandton, should I say, a hat for Lloyd out in Sandton this morning. Okay, we're edging towards the 10 o'clock news. Let me squeeze in a WhatsApp voice note that'll take us into the latest news update.
Good morning, Sis Cathy and listeners. Cathy, you see, I concur with the gentleman who spoke about cutting off of his electricity because of maybe missing one payment or two. Yes, municipality is doing so. I'm staying in Port Elizabeth. I pay my municipal bills, electricity, but if I did not pay on time, 3 to 7 days, they send a letter that is saying, if I do not pay, they will cut off. And a week later, if you don't pay, you don't respond to the letter, they really cut you off. But there are many people who are not paying. I concur with the gentleman. It's talent a year. Thank you.
In our top stories, parts of Nelson Mandela Bay Metro without power amid flooding, and Russian president to host BRICS summit. Good morning. Torrential rains have affected electricity supply in many parts of the Nelson Mandela Bay Metropolitan Municipality in the Eastern Cape. Areas affected include Motherwell, Kariga, General Tyre, Ford, New Brighton, Sacy and surrounding areas. The municipal spokesperson Sitembi Sosoyaya says they've dispatched teams to the affected areas, but it may take time to reach them due to the inclement weather. Meanwhile, the Metro says evacuations in parts of the Metro are continuing smoothly. They have been underway since early this morning. Some residents of Kariga have taken to social media to post areas of the town that have been affected. The town was also flooded in June. The South African Weather Service has issued a warning for disruptive rains in the Metro. Humanitarian organisation Gift of the Givers, Ali Sable, says they've deployed teams to assist with relief efforts.
We are trying to get community members to be evacuated in schools and church halls. We are very grateful in the early hours of this morning to those that have responded by opening up the halls for the residents. The main concern is to get the transportation. Just before I went on this interview, the Nelson Mandela Bay Disaster Management teams reached out to us to ask us for assistance in terms of transportation as well, as they have to evacuate elderly, women and children to these halls of safety.
Floods to and from the George Airport in the Garden Route region of the Western Cape have resumed. The airport's Company of South Africa says flights were cancelled yesterday due to adverse weather conditions. Similar weather conditions have been reported further along the coast in the Eastern Cape, where heavy rain has caused flooding in Kewega as well as KwaZulu-Natal. Action SA members of the Gauteng legislature seeking reasons for being blocked from entering the Sebokeng Hospital in the Mfuleni municipality in Gauteng during a surprise oversight visit yesterday. Those denied access include the party's provincial chairperson, Funzi Ngobeni. He says they were stopped despite having credentials.
When we got to the doors of the hospital, we were then stopped by security guards. And later on, this official started making calls and calling people that sounded like their comrades. They were mobilizing to come and help them to stop us. So eventually they came and they started singing and blocking our way in and causing a scene. So we tried to find a way of negotiating with them, but unfortunately, we had to abandon our oversight and leave the premises.
And finally, Russian President Vladimir Putin is today set to welcome delegations from 36 countries, including South Africa, as he hosts the BRICS Summit of Emerging Economies. The Kremlin is yet to confirm the attendance of the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. Moscow says the gathering is evidence that Western efforts to isolate Russia over its invasion of Ukraine have failed. Steve Rosenberg reports.
Russian officials talk a lot about reshaping the global order, and Moscow sees the BRICS Club of emerging economies as a means to that end. The Kremlin will urge member states to agree on a new cross-border payment system that is independent of the US dollar. But critics point to differences of opinion between BRICS members, even animosity. For example, India and China, Egypt and Ethiopia. What's more, Russia may have adopted an anti-Western stance, but some of the other BRICS nations, like India, are determined to remain on good terms with Europe and America.
Recapping the top story, torrential rains have affected electricity supply in many parts of the Nelson Mandela Bay Metropolitan Municipality in the Eastern Cape. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
Channel your fearless side on Afternoon Express Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3 when oncologist Dr. Lazan Langenwerfen talks about why early detection and regular screening are key to beating breast cancer. We also chat to a radiologist to give us insights on breast cancer in men. Then we hear breast cancer survivor Lauren Juppy's uplifting story. That's Afternoon Express this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
Southern African queens are back on the battlefield. 14 teams will tackle each other in the search of the ultimate glory. This is the Hollywood Bets COSAFA Women's Championship 2024. Witness the great contest by regional football queens from 22 October to 2 November 2024. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. For the love of the game.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Welcome to the second hour of the show. You're listening to The Talking Point. We continue leading the conversation right here on SAFM. It's 6 after 10 o'clock. Coming up in this hour, we'll be talking finance. We'll be switching things up a little bit. Today, Brian is not going to be able to join us in studio. He's had some urgent work matters that have come up that he needs to attend to. But we will be in conversation with the financial sector Conduct Authority, and this is one of the issues that Brian has been working on, and it's around employees who have their contributions deducted from their salaries, but those employers are not paying those deductions over to the necessary third parties. So often we see this in the instances of medical aid, of UIF, Provident Fund, and other related deductions that employers will often do on behalf of their employees. So the Financial Sector Conduct Authority is going to answer then some questions in this regard. So that's what you can expect today as we talk finance. As I said, Brian has unfortunately had to move things around in his diary to attend to an urgent matter. So Gabetso Trini, who is with the Financial Sector Conduct Authority, will be joining us for the hour. Before we get into it, your voice notes from the open line.
Morning, Cathy. Morning. Yeah, man, this is Anonymous in Guyana, man. Can you kindly assist, man, the Greater Guyana Municipality to be hands-on regarding to the issue of the tribal authorities? People are striking now and then because they are demanding, and the officials, they are not coming to the party. The officials are being biased about the matter. They don't have even anything to say to them. We don't know whether tomorrow will write the exam or not because of those municipality officials, including the provincial officials. Thank you.
Morning, Cathy. South African citizens are rushing the Minister of Home Affairs to fix the wrongdoings of Home Affairs of more than 30 years, writing our surnames and names wrong, date of birth wrong, gender wrong, and slow distributing of birth certificates, IDs. Now they think he's going to change Home Affairs overnight, the corrupt Home Affairs. That is delaying lots of things. And they will say computers are down and harass you. Thank you, Cathy.
Cathy, good morning. I'm Takatayo. On the issue of Eastern Cape, Transkei, where there's a lot of killings, families are being killed, Cathy, and it shows that really our criminal justice need to be amended. The constitution also need to be amended. Cathy, if you go to the neighboring countries in Africa, southern region, Botswana, Zimbabwe, I'm talking about Lesotho, you will never find that kind of disrespecting of law. Cathy, how can you kill 5 people when there's a case pending in Lusikisiki? You show that you are disrespecting the justice system of South Africa because you know that it is lenient. It must be changed, Cathy, for the favoring of innocent people. Thanks, Takata. Cathy, good morning. I'm Takatayo. On the issue of Eastern Cape, Transkei, where there's a lot of killings, families are being killed.
All right, apologies for that. A bit of an issue there. Like I said, our system this morning is having its own mind, has a mind of its own. So if we keep experiencing these issues, please do bear with us. Let me welcome onto the show Gabedzwe Chweni, who is a specialist analyst in the Retirement Funds Conduct Supervision Department at the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. Gabedzwe, good morning to you. Thanks for your time this morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and thank you for having us.
So this morning, of course, Brian had already gotten in touch with you to raise the issue of our listeners, some that have been raising concerns, I think, over a period of time, really, about employees that deduct contributions from their salaries but don't pay those over to the relevant third parties. How prevalent would you say this issue is?
Well, in our industry, Cathy, it is quite a common practice, although it is not something that obviously we encourage as the regulator. But this issue will be prevalent or will remain an issue of the industry just by the virtue of the design of the industry that we're in. You know, we have a relationship between an employee, an employer, and a retirement fund. And what it means is the employer, depending on the contract of employment with the employee, will be deducting contributions on behalf of the member from their salary and pay that over to the retirement fund, plus the retirement contributions that the employer is liable to pay. Obviously, this will differ from one contract of employment to another. So by virtue of that relationship, at some one point or another, you know, we will have the issue of area contributions. Particularly also when you look at the economic situation faced in the country, you find small employers who are struggling economically, and obviously that has a financial impact on their business. And in some instances, you just have delinquent employers. And what we're trying to do, you know, is where employers are facing some form of financial difficulty, that you can deal with in a different way in which you can engage with that employer to find one another's a retirement fund to say we can enter into a payment arrangement. But where there are those delinquent employers who can pay these contributions over and they just don't, then, those ones have to face the full might of the law.
So you say that the design of the system is what enables this fraudulent behavior. And it really is fraudulent because most of the time, employees only find out that their employers have not been sending those contributions through to the retirement funds when they actually need to access them, when they're changing employment. And how is it that this is able to happen and it continues to happen?
All right. So yes, so it's by design. So obviously with our occupational funds, and occupational funds will be those retirement funds offered by your employer, as opposed to your voluntary funds such as a retirement annuity, where you only have a relationship between the member of a retirement annuity and that retirement annuity. So if you don't pay for a certain period, maybe they stop the debit orders and so forth. So in that instance, they might not necessarily be area contributions. So they will, by design, occur in our occupational fund space. Now, what happens, or what the law legislates through our conduct standard, is that when a retirement fund and their administrator realizes that an employer has not paid, obviously they will engage with an employer to say, we haven't received the contributions for this month, and these contributions must be paid by the 7th of the following month. So for example, your September contributions must be paid over to the retirement fund by the 7th of October, and that contribution amount must be followed by a contribution statement or a contribution schedule that informs your administrator in the retirement fund how to allocate the money that's been paid. So you have Kia, you have Cathy, and then it says for Kia you must allocate 500, for Cathy you must allocate 1,000 rand. So when an employer does not submit those or does not make payment, the administrator will inform the retirement fund to say, we haven't received payment from this particular employer. And as a result, the retirement fund, through their administrator, needs to communicate with the member. They need to send some form of communication to the member to say, your employer has not paid your retirement fund contributions for this month, or whether it's for 3 months. So that communication must occur. It is legislated. The other way members can check is when they look at their benefit statement. The law says you must get your benefit statement at least once a year. So 6 months after the end of the financial year of the retirement fund, you get a benefit statement. And that benefit statement should indicate, the period for which contributions were received. So, this is twofold, Cathy, to say, yes, there is a responsibility on retirement funds and the administrator to issue communication to members, informing them of these contraventions by their employer. But on the other hand as well, it's for members to engage with such material when it gets to them. So you don't have to wait for your benefit statement to come to you, or you also don't have to wait for when you exit the fund, when you withdraw from your fund, particularly now with two-pot. A lot of people were trying to access their two-pot savings pot, and they realized that they weren't any, or they didn't have enough contributions, or some contributions were not paid. That you check your benefit, your statements regularly, as often as possible. A lot of administrators offer a web portal where you can create a profile and you can check your value. If you want to do it every day, you can do it monthly, quarterly. So there are avenues, there are WhatsApp channels for some retirement funds and the administrators where they can check this. So, really, we really encourage members to also engage with the communication and seek out that communication from their retirement funds and the administrator.
So Gabby, so if I understand you correctly, you're saying that in this instance, the onus then is on the employer, or rather on the employee, to effectively find out if their employer is paying over those contributions, and make sure that they become aware of any changes. There are no other options available for them.
I'm not saying the onus is primarily on the employee, Cathy. So this is why in the beginning I was referring to retirement funds, and through their administrator, they need to communicate with members and make them aware of this issue. Because look, the only other way a member ordinarily would become aware of this is, like you said, when they withdraw. When they want to withdraw from their fund, that's when they would probably be aware. So what we're saying is the legislation requires that after a certain amount of time, with I think it's about 30 odd days, that the retirement fund must inform members of this contravention. So that needs to take place. And then obviously it's just for members then to just keep engaged with the going on of their retirement fund through the web portals, your WhatsApp channels, whatever communication material that you might be receiving from your fund. So it's both, I want to say both the employee and the retirement fund have a responsibility, so to speak.
What is the liability of these fund managers and these administrators when they have not communicated?
So if they have not communicated, this would be the board of a retirement fund that would be constituted of various trustees, right? So ultimately, they need to ensure that this communication is happening. If it's not happening, in terms of Section 7 of the Pension Funds Act, that would be a dereliction of their duty as a trustee or as a board, because they are required to communicate with the members of that fund. So it would be a dereliction of their duties, and in that instance, the authority can look at such matters with a view of intervening via various regulatory interventions. One of them being that you can remove a trustee if they're not fulfilling their duties. Well, this is the regulator. The regulator may remove a trustee from the board where they are found, or trustees from the board, or the board in its entirety, where they are found to be neglecting their duties as trustees of that fund.
What recourse do employees have?
So, first of all, I just want to say, before we get to the employees, that retirement funds are not only required to inform members of these contraventions, they are required to report to the authority, to our office, of their proposed actions of how they're going to deal with this contravention. And after a certain period of time, they are required to report the matter to SAPS, so that obviously the South African Police Service can investigate matters where actual theft took place. Employers actually deducted these funds and did not pay them over. But secondly, the members may, through the office of the pension funds adjudicator, so that office will obviously adjudicate matters related to pension funds, through that office they may lodge a complaint against their employer or against their fund where they find that this fund is not doing what they're supposed to do. So there is that option, and that service is free of charge to members participating in these funds. Another leg could be opening a case as a member with the South African Police Service. That has proven to be a challenge not only for individual members, but to retirement funds as well. There are challenges around, police awareness of this contravention, matters of jurisdiction of, an employer in Petersburg, and I'm situated in Pretoria. Their head office is in Petersburg. So, the police might say there's a jurisdictional issue there. And The other mechanism is for civil litigation against an employer, but obviously that will come at a cost, and not many of our members, in most cases, might afford such action.
When it comes to the success rate for the employees that have taken up some of the recourse options available to them, what would you say you have seen as a rate of success? Do you have instances where employees are actually successful in getting employers to pay up the balance of what they have not been contributing on their behalf?
So the success, particularly through the Office of the Pension Funds Adjudicator, they adjudicate over a lot of matters of, the non-payment of contributions. And a lot of the times you find that the adjudicator issues a determination or finds in favor of the members. Now, the issue is the enforcement. So once you have the determination as a member, the issue is whether your employer will make good of that determination. What we have seen, Cathy, particularly in the private security sector, is that the Office of the Pension Funds Adjudicator will issue a determination, instructing an employer to pay whatever is due to the member. And you'll find that this contravention not only just affects one employee, it affects 10 other employees of the same employer. So that one employee will get a determination in their favor, and the employer makes good on that particular member, but does not make good on the other 9 or the rest of the employees. So we have seen that working in favor of employees or members, but the numbers still do not look great. When you look at the number of determinations, and I just don't have the number with me at the moment, the Office of the Pension Funds Adjudicator issues a lot of determinations against employers, and I don't think the success rate is that high.
So what is the role then of the Financial Sector Conduct Authority in all of this? What is your role?
So our role primarily is to supervise, to regulate the retirement funds and administrators as regulated entities. That's who our regulated entities are. And the difficulty with the non-payment of contributions by employers is that in our current framework of the Pension Funds Act, employers are not regulated or supervised entities. So that's the loophole that currently, it's not that it's a loophole, but it's just the legislation just doesn't give us enough jurisdiction over employers participating in these retirement funds for us to take decisive action against. We could, at this current point, we could issue a penalty for perhaps non-submission of a contribution schedule. But on the flip side, and this is not something that should really stop the regulator. But on the flip side, you will issue a penalty in monetary value to an entity that is currently not paying contributions. They are saying, well, we might not have it, or they're just not paying more. So that's the other leg. But for us as a regulator, as the FSCA, we regulate over retirement funds and their administrators. But the issue of employers will be addressed through the enactment of the COFI bill, so the Conduct of Financial Institutions bill. And, we're hoping that at least in the year 2025 that that bill will be passed and we can start treating participating employers as supervised entities.
Of course, it would play a significant role if the current pension fund administrators were able to also sort of do their end in terms of communicating with employees, notifying them of any changes in as far as their contributions to retirements are concerned. You supervise that, right? And to what extent are you able to take action, or even have you taken action where administrators have not been able to do that? Because what we get from our listeners is that when they go to pension fund administrators to ask questions, very often it's a cumbersome process. They don't always get the answers that they need. And they sort of sent from pillar to post and told, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Follow up with your employer. And by then it's too late.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of, the regulator taking action against retirement funds or administrators, at this point, the regulator has not taken any action against those entities. Because when we look at the reports we're receiving from funds, it's not, for us, we're of the view that, or we're looking at it from a point of, it's not that funds are not doing anything about this. It's not that they're sitting on their hands and they're not doing anything about this issue, this important matter. What we find is, an administrator saying, I have communicated, I issued communication, and that communication is, for whatever reason, not reaching the member. So in some instances, we've picked up, which is very concerning, this practice of, an administrator saying, I've issued letters, I've printed it out when we've distributed these letters, but we've distributed them to the employers, but the employer is not distributing this information on this communication out to the employees. One of the factors there being that an employer might not necessarily want their employees to know of this contravention. But what we've said through a regulatory instrument, we call it the conduct standard, is to say, retirement funds and the administrators need to get contact details of their members so that that can allow direct communication between a retirement fund and the member.
Yeah, Kiabezwe, that seems like the obvious to me, but clearly it's not. And I want us to look at this issue a bit more closely, because it also could be the retirement funds and administrators taking the easy way out. If you're trying to contact members and you can't reach them and you're aware of some of the patterns that employers have, why not find something else that can work? We'll continue this conversation in a moment. I'll also take your calls for Kiabezwe on 086 000 2032. This is for the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. It's time for your latest news headlines.
Good morning. In the headlines, the Eastern Cape Education Department has confirmed the suspension of the writing of a computer assistant technology paper for matric candidates in the Kariga area in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metropolitan Municipality. This is due to power outages due to localized flooding. The Gauteng Legislature's Portfolio Committee on Community Safety is expected to visit the Orange Farm Police Station in southern Johannesburg this morning. The committee will conduct an oversight visit following the gunning down of 7 people, including a 3-year-old child, over a week ago. And Action SA Gauteng Chair Funzin Ngobeni says unannounced oversight visits to hospitals are not aimed at exposing issues, but rather to assess the state of the institution. Details on these and other stories at 11.
Taking a look at your markets this morning, the rand currently trading at 17 rand 54 to the dollar, 22 rand 81 to the pound, and 18 rand 99 to the euro. Markets in Asia were lower at the closing bell. The JSE mainly weaker in mid-morning trade. Markets in Europe are mostly in the red. Gold is trading at $2,733. Platinum $1,018 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $73.70 a barrel.
Get ready for the biggest night in South African music. Tune in to SABC 1 on the 2nd of November at 8 p.m. for the 30th South African Music Awards, celebrating our finest local talent. Catch the yellow carpet action from 6 p.m. and join us as we honor the legends and voices that shape our sound. For more info, visit samusicawards.co.za. Hashtag Less Noise, More Music. Hashtag Summer 30 in partnership with the SABC.
74 million rand in total estimated Powerball and Powerball Plus jackpots could be your ticket to the big millions this Tuesday. Play Powerball for an estimated 15 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 59 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda Pusha Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Talking finance, making sense of your finance.
We continue talking finance this Tuesday morning. Brian Hirsch out for the day, but stepping in, Gabetso Tweni, who is with the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. We're talking about the practice of employers who make deductions of salary employee salaries, but don't pay those over to retirement funds. And what recourse do employees have in this instance? So I'll be taking your calls for Kiabetswe, who has explained the work of the Financial Sector Conduct Authority and, of course, the recourse available to employees. I'll be taking your calls for her on 086 000 2032. That's 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107. That's where you can send your WhatsApp messages this morning. Before I bring in our listeners, Gabetswe, I want you just to clarify again this issue of communication. And I know that you say as the FSCA, you often have found that, retirement funds are doing their best to communicate, but for whatever reason, that communication is not reaching the employers who are really their members. I would argue that surely for as long as that communication is not reaching the affected member, then it's almost as if it hasn't happened. That means that they're not actually doing what they have to be doing.
Thanks, Cathy. I suppose, look, that is an argument, and I must concede that communication in this instance, could be improved, and obviously, if a member is not aware, if they haven't received the communication, then, it might as well as be, you didn't communicate with me. But as I've stated previously, that these institutions are finding alternative ways to try and reach their employees as best as they can with the resources at their disposal.
Does that mean that if members don't get communication, well, it wasn't our intent that you didn't get it. So all I'm saying is the impact for members is a very serious impact. And we're talking about people's life savings here. We're talking about their ability to retire and retire comfortably. I just don't get the sense that this is a matter that you're dealing with urgency, or even that there are any steps that are being taken to actually address it, given the scale of the impact that it has on members who ultimately have to live with the consequences of these rogue employees, especially because you yourself have said that the recourse for these employees often doesn't yield positive results, even though they might have court cases that support them, even if the adjudicating body may have found in their favor.
I just want to clarify, Cathy, to say that this is a very serious issue. It's an issue that is of deep concern to the authority. I think perhaps in the context of communication, where members are finding that, for example, with the publication of errant employers that we have on our website, and we intend to do this quarterly, right? If you find that perhaps your employer was on that list and this has never been communicated to you, members may approach our office. They may lodge a complaint, or they may lodge a complaint with the Office of the Pension Fund Adjudicator, so that from a regulatory perspective, we can then engage that retirement fund and the administrator. Because in their reports to us, they're saying, then this is the retirement funds, they're saying we have informed members. So if the member then comes and says specifically this fund and this administrator hasn't communicated with us, we can engage. But, it's not to say we haven't been engaging with these funds on what they're doing to recover these monies. Even us as an authority, as a regulator, we're saying the legislation hamstrings us a little bit when it comes to employers. But that hasn't stopped us from engaging with other stakeholders to see how can we assist. For example, I spoke to, and maybe this might not necessarily be relevant to an individual employee or member, but in the instance of reporting cases to SAPS, for example, we have tried and we will continue to engage with SAPS to see how we can increase police awareness, how we can get some certain cases going, exploring other factors of perhaps using a regulator as a central place for us to lodge cases on behalf of retirement funds and so forth. We've brought this issue up, or NEDLAC has approached us to have a discussion around, how this will impact labor, their members. We've had discussions with Treasury in respect of municipalities that are in arrears, and perhaps other entities as well going forward. So it's not to say that the regulator has not taken this issue serious. It is very serious. Retirement funds for the most part, or retirement fund savings for the most part, are the only savings mechanism or savings that majority of South Africans have. So, where employers are not doing what they're supposed to do, and retirement funds are reporting, we are saying as a regulator, let's try and get other stakeholders involved and see how we can hold these employers to account.
All right. Thanks for that, Gabby. Let me go to Jake. Jake, you're calling us from Kempton Park. Okay. Looks like we're having an issue there with that line. I'm going to bring in then just some of the questions that have already come through on the WhatsApp line. And this one is particularly around the recourse that members have.
Cathy, good morning, and to our guest. This is Baki from Cape Town. I'm listening to this wonderful conversation, the trustees, the funds, the management thereof, accountability and the like. But when it came to litigation, our guest has just, articulated on the ways, how one can go if he is not satisfied about this. But he said, the litigation can actually be costly. That line on itself, it is what is perpetuating the fear amongst employees to not to attempt to litigate against the employer because they actually do not have money to pay that is now to cover the legal cost and what and so forth. I would like our guests to comment on that is now the avenue that this employees is open to in terms of a class action and also legal aid that may be available for such. This Bike in Cape Town.
All right, thanks for that question, Baki Kyabetswe.
Thank you, Cathy. Baki, that's a good question. That's a fantastic question. So litigation is costly, not just for ordinary members, but for retirement funds as well. So if they were to go through the litigation route, it will also be it will come at a cost for the retirement funds, and ultimately that cost will be borne by the members of that fund, because that's who the members of the fund. They're the ones who fund, the ongoings of a retirement fund. So whether it's the member individual in their individual capacities or as a class action or the retirement fund, ultimately there will be a cost. But I do think the idea of a class action would be one way to look at it. As a regulator, we can't tell members what they can't or can do. But the idea of a class action, it is brilliant. It is something that definitely members can explore.
I guess part of the question that he's also asking, Gabito, is in what ways is the Conduct Authority also, with these multiple stakeholder conversations, engagements that you're having, is legal aid one of them, given the fact that you have highlighted the challenges that members have when now they have to claim some of those contributions that have not been made?
I can confirm at this point, Cathy, that legal aid is not a stakeholder that we have interacted with. But it doesn't stop us from reaching out and seeing where that engagement can lead us to.
So then what would you say that you have done or are doing as the authority when it comes to the members of these funds? You know how they're affected. You know what these employers are doing. So what support, what interventions have come through from your side to try and mitigate the impact of this?
Once again, Cathy, so our office would deal with and I understand your question in terms of the impact of members, right? But our office will deal with the regulated entities. The office of the pension funds adjudicator is the one that will adjudicate over these matters, over pension fund matters, whether it be the non-payment of contributions, a dispute over death benefit allocations, a dispute of the withdrawal benefit computation. So they're the ones that are able to assist a complainant, a member, to engage with the fund, to engage with the employer and say, this is the outcome, and that's for me, I would say that's the best avenue for members to at least get this legal route, to kickstart this legal route.
Okay, let me bring in back Jake from Kempton Park. Jake, apologies for that. It seems like you're finally on the line. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy, as well as to your guest. Cathy, I'm calling with a serious concern. It seems as if our authorities, your guest there, the caring of the public is not. For example, our government institution, this issue of saying, no, it is not our responsibility, the policy this, the policy that. But at the end of the day, what are they doing? Because if it is another department, after this, do they call the other department, making sure that now they close the loopholes that are there. But at the end of the day, they normally say it is not our jurisdiction, everything. At the end of the day, now the public are the one affected. In many cases, ombudsman, everything, always say, no, the policy, they are able to identify policy gaps. But what are they doing? Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. A fair question. Gabezwe?
Thank you, Jake. I can understand where that is coming from, but I must say that we have been engaging with external stakeholders. So particularly where Jake refers to policy gaps, for example, when we were engaging with the NEDLAC, we raised the issue of there being a misalignment of of the Pension Funds Act and certain provisions of the Labor Relations Act. But we have said to retirement funds that particularly operate in the bargaining council sector to say, you still need to act within or under for retirement fund contributions. You still need to do what you're required in terms of the Pension Funds Act. So we are trying our best with what we have at our disposal to engage with other with other stakeholders. We've even been invited, or will be presenting to Parliament in due course in terms of where are we on this matter. So we're trying to coordinate everyone's efforts to ensure that those that are required to open cases. Retirement funds, you're required to report. You're reporting, and we're monitoring. The actions of the relevant stakeholders. So for now, I think the other thing is, for now, I don't think there will be a immediate impact. It will take time for the general public, even for other stakeholders, to start seeing a positive move, whether it's the reduction of arrear contributions, whether it's increased member communication. I do think we will start seeing a positive change. But perhaps at this point, because there are so many moving factors, there are still engagements they're still taking place. We are unable to say for sure this is the direct impact we've seen.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. I'm back with more of your WhatsApp voice notes and, of course, your calls for Gyabetswe Tsweni, who is a specialist analyst in the Retirement Funds Conduct Supervision Department with the FSCA.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
Cathy Mohlahlana on SAFM. Talking finance, making sense of your finance.
We continue the conversation on the talking point. Lots of your questions coming through for the Financial Sector Conduct Authority interview that we have this morning. So what I'll do is that I'll take the voice notes that have come through, Gyabetswe. I'll play the voice note and give you an opportunity to answer immediately after.
Good morning to you, Sis Cathy, our guest and the listeners. Point number one, how long will the pension and possibly provident fund surpluses of 80 billion rand, known as unclaimed funds, lie in reserve accounts? Point two, I feel if further former members cannot be traced, this 80 billion rand should be shared amongst the identified members, both former and current, of these funds. Point three, the major stumbling block is there thousands of former members who have no proof of employment, which is a requirement to claim their share of the surpluses. Point four, the other point is some members of municipal pension and provident funds who have now retired are still waiting for their money, some having been only paid or claimed 1/3 of the pension monies. Point five, the FSCA apparently has no jurisdiction over these municipal pension and provident funds. That was confirmed in a telephonic call by myself to the FSCA on the toll-free line. Point six, what's happened to those fund administrators staffed who were involved in bulking, the bulking scandal of the earlier years? Has anyone been arrested or have they been taken to court? I believe some of the accused staff members were brought back by Australia and led to court in chains. Thank you. Frank Maritzburg.
All right, very pointed questions there from Frank Gabedzwe.
Thank you, Cathy. Thanks, Frank. So a lot of your questions have a lot to do with unclaimed benefits, Frank, and unclaimed assets, which is an altogether different issue from the non-payment of contributions. Because with the unclaimed benefits, we're saying, these are assets that have been received by retirement funds, and retirement funds are unable to pay the member or the beneficiaries due to them not being able to be identified. So the unclaimed assets, and it's a discussion on its own, Cathy, they will remain in the retirement funds until such a time as a beneficiary can be traced. We have engaged with external parties on that one, who are offering, very interesting solutions to retirement funds as to how can they assist with the unclaimed assets. In terms of municipalities that are not regulated by the authority, Frank, we'd have to identify which ones those are. Municipalities in South Africa participate in roughly 40 different retirement funds, and most of them would be regulated by the FSCA. The list of regulated pension funds is available on our website, which is www.fsca.co.za. So most of the retirement funds in the municipal space should be, or rather are regulated by the FSCA. In terms of bulking, there was a huge exercise done at the instruction of the authority, Frank. Hello?
Yes, you're still on air.
There was a huge exercise performed, Frank. It was roughly in 2016, 2019, that period there, or even slightly before, where a lot of the bulking assets were actually transferred to the members who were affected by bulking. This was at the instruction of the registrar at the time, or the authority at the time.
Gabedzwe, it seems to me that if the retirement funds were able to communicate with their members before they even get to a point where they die and there's a need for the disbursements of funds, some of the challenges that are being experienced now would be really dealt with and even prevented.
I concur to a degree, Cathy. So, with our industry and historically, there was a data issue, around the type of data that was being received from employers. As a result, you couldn't identify a member, or you couldn't get a hold of a member. So a lot has been done, such as directing retirement funds or what type of information to request from their employers. But you are right in a sense that so thorough communication that is clear and that's easy to understand, where that reaches members, it would help the industry a lot, because members would be a lot more informed. But on the inverse is, are members engaging with that communication? Sometimes, we had a very big administrator where we asked, when you issued your benefit statement, for example, and they said they did it via email, and they tracked how many of their members actually opened the attachments, and how long did they engage, on the web portal for, and they were saying the numbers are relatively low. So, there is a lot that still needs to be done in terms of, one, communication, ensuring that it does get to members, and then ensuring that our members are educated, and they are engaging with their material that they get from retirement funds.
The issue of the retirement funds as well, when it comes to disbursements and distributions, there very much is a sense that This situation ultimately works in favor of these funds because they get to enjoy the accrual of whatever interest that is not paid out to the beneficiaries of these funds. Again, it's one of the areas where one doesn't get a sense of urgency, in terms of the tracking down of these individuals, making sure that these monies are actually paid over to beneficiaries.
Thank you, Cathy. So I understand your concern. I think in terms of the unclaimed benefits, what we have done as the regulator is we have an unclaimed benefits search engine on our website because we saw the need that we need to have a central place where members can try and see whether they have assets due to them or their beneficiaries can check. So there is an unclaimed benefits search engine on our website for unclaimed benefits or assets. So that is something we have done in respect of retirement funds. There wasn't paper issued last year where the FSCA as a regulator is looking at unclaimed assets in various industries. So not just retirement funds, but banking as well, investments and so forth. And, wanting to have a collective way of dealing with unclaimed assets in South Africa. So retirement funds are looking for other ways as well, to try and locate these members or these unclaimed benefit members or their beneficiaries. They're using tracing agents. We see that a lot. There's a retirement fund that is called the Mine Workers Provident Fund that's doing fantastic work. They've partnered with a third party that's assisting them with, sort of like reconstructing the data that they have to find certain members. They've been able to partner with, and I'm not sure if it's an embassy or which departments in Mozambique, for example, to try and find Mozambican mine workers that have assets due to them. So in that space of unclaimed assets and benefits, retirement funds are actually looking at innovative ways, and we're having other stakeholders that are coming up with innovative solutions to assist. We have this as well for the area contributions on non-payment of assets, where we are having now external people coming to us who are not affiliated to a retirement fund or administrator to say, this is one way in which we can either assist the members, so we can lodge complaints or cases on behalf of members, or we can assist retirement funds with looking for some of these employers.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately, for this morning. Gabetso Tshweni is with the FSCA. It's 11 o'clock, time for your latest news update.
Thank you very much, Cathy. The top stories this hour: power outage affects matric exams in the Eastern Cape, and Peru's former president is sent to jail. A very good morning to you. Eastern Cape Education has confirmed the suspension of the writing of a computer-assisted technology paper for matriculants in the Kariega area in the Nelson Mandela Bay municipality. The department says this is because of power outages due to localized flooding after torrential rains lashed the area. Spokesperson Malibong Mtima says they've dispatched officials to attend to the issue.
The whole area is flooded and as such, the entire Kariega has blackout. We do not have electricity. Our guys are on site, which is the district director, the cluster chief director, including the head of department, to provide solutions to the problem that we are facing currently.
Several areas in the metro are without electricity. They include Motherwell, Kariega, General Tyre, Ford, Struandale, Trident Steel, New Brighton, Sacy, and the surrounding areas. Municipal spokesperson Tembiso Soyaya says the teams they've dispatched are taking long to reach the affected areas due to the inclement weather. The Gauteng Community Safety Portfolio Committee is expected to visit the Orange Farm Police Station in southern Joburg this morning. It'll conduct an oversight visit following the gunning down of 7 people, including a 3-year-old child, over a week ago. Police say a local tavern owner allegedly shot family members of a patron that he had an altercation with. The tavern owner is reported to have killed himself after the shooting incident. Committee Chairperson Bandile Masuku.
The purpose of the committee's visit is to assess the police station handling of the case, examine community safety concerns in the area, and engage police officers on strategies to prevent future incidences of this nature. The committee will also meet with the local stakeholders, including ward councillors, the community police forum, and gather information to address any concerns regarding the incidents.
Action SA's Gauteng Chair Funzi Ngobeni says unannounced oversight visits to hospitals are not aimed at exposing issues, but rather at assessing the state of the institution. His comments come after the party's MPLs were denied entry to the Sebokeng Hospital in the Mfuleni municipality yesterday. Ngobeni says they've received complaints that the hospital does not have adequate equipment and doctors. He says the oversight visit was conducted to follow up on the complaints.
Officials need to understand that MPLs or MPs, when they do oversight, it's really not to punish them or to expose them, but to assess the state of the infrastructure of the institution, so that we can be able to advocate for them at the legislature where we sit on a daily basis. If we do not know their challenges and we do not know the resources that they're lacking, we are not going to be able to assist them in making sure that they get necessary budget, that they get necessary equipment for them to be able to do the work.
And a court in Peru has sentenced the former president Alejandro Toledo to 20 years and 6 months in jail. He was convicted of corruption and money laundering. The BBC's Leonardo Rocha reports.
Prosecutors said Alejandro Toledo took more than $30 million in bribes from a Brazilian construction company, which was awarded with a contract to build a road in southern Peru. He was arrested 5 years ago in California, where he had lived and worked for many years, and extradited to Peru last year. The Brazilian company Odebrecht admitted paying millions of dollars in bribes to officials across Latin America and the US to secure government contracts. Toledo is the second former Peruvian president convicted of corruption, after his political rival Alberto Fujimori, who died last month.
The top story at 11, Eastern Cape Education has confirmed the suspension of the writing of a computer assistance technology paper for matriculants in the Kariyega area. For SAFM News, Kemudupima Khalemele.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed Dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
The Viewpoint on SAFM.
What is biomuti?
Combination of biotech and umuti, which is isiZulu for medicine, basically. Biotech is biotechnology. Your ability to take a natural product and put it through, say, for example,
aloe. Let's talk about aloe.
Take aloe. You take aloe, you process that aloe. On the other side, you have an aloe gel. That whole process is called biotech. You take umhlonyani and you process that umhlonyani in a means of an extraction. And that extraction could mean also just you making tea out of it. That's biotech.
Tebogo Tlopane, founder of Biomuti, a company blending African medicinal plants and modern science to create health solutions based on traditional knowledge.
Tuesday Takeover on The Viewpoint. SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365, Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday. The Viewpoint on SAFM.
What is biomuti?
Combination of biotech and umuti, which is isiZulu for medicine, basically. Biotech is biotechnology. Your ability to take a natural product and put it through, say, for example,
aloe. Let's talk about aloe.
Take aloe. You take aloe, you process that aloe. On the other side, you have an aloe gel. That whole process is called biotech. You take umhlonyane and you process that umhlonyane in a means of an extraction. And that extraction could mean also just you making tea out of it. That's biotech.
Tebogo Tlhopane, founder of Biomuti, a company blending African medicinal plants and modern science to create health solutions based on traditional knowledge.
Tuesday Takeover on The Viewpoint. Cathy Mohlahlana on SAFM.
Hi there, Lunga, Western Cape. Just in the conversation with regards to the retirement funds, etc. I feel, yes, common sense says that they should be contacting the members directly if employers fail to contribute. I agree with that. And I also believe that the UIF should also start looking at that, where a person stops contributing through their company, contacting them and finding out have they stopped working at that particular company and would they like to still continue contributing towards their UIF through either private means. Some people become self-employed. Some people just want to have the insurance. So yeah. Anyway, I'm just considering what happened in during COVID, where some people found out that their companies had not been contributing, but they'd been deducting contributions for years and years. Anyway, awesome show. Cheers.
Good morning, Cathy, and your guests there. You see, Cathy, this topic is very painful. Like myself, I'm in that situation. It's almost 2 years now. It's almost a year and a half. I put my claim at UIF. I haven't received anything. The owner was deducting my money for 7 years, not remitting. So all this comes to the issue of inspections. The rampant corruption which was happening when we call these inspectors from the Department of Labor to say, come and see what is happening here. You just see them, but at the end of the day, nothing changes by the company. It's very painful. A lot of people have lost their money. Thanks.
Morning, Cathy. How are you? Fine. Cathy, I've got the same problem with regard to, but mine is a pension fund. My provident fund since has been deducted from 2000. And then when I checked there after my resignation, I found that I've got a lot of gaps. And then when I calculated and then I found it's plus minus 7,000 rands in 2016 from the year 2000. And then I went to the Umbat in Pretoria and then launched a case. And then the case was won in 2019. And then that day they must pay all my money together with the interest. Even now, I every now and then go to the Department of Provident Fund there in Gandhi Square at a Metro Center. They sent me pillar to post. And then I didn't get my money. And then they said they must pay all my money together with the interest. Even now, I didn't get it. Simon Pasha from Skymark Security Services. Thank you very much.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
Yeah, thanks for those WhatsApp voice notes. And I think, Simon, your case is a classic example of where things go wrong in the system. And the sense that I have following the interview that we did in the last hour is that there's nothing pretty much that happens from here on. You maybe will be lucky if the employer, for whatever reason, has a change of heart, has a level of consciousness, and they're able to pay you that money. But otherwise, there's nothing outside of the legal steps that you can take against them. There's nothing that actually forces them to do what the ombudsman has said they must do. There's no enforcement, effectively. And that needs to change, because as long as there isn't a way for there to be consequences for this type of behavior by rogue employers, then it's going to continue. It's going to continue. Yeah. Lots of questions, I must say, that I have following that particular conversation we've had. For now, though, we're going to have to change gears. It is Transport Month in South Africa. And one of the things that we're looking at, of course, is the high rate of drunken driving. In our country, it's a significant contributor to the accidents that we see on the road. And, of course, there's lots of statistics that point to this. Joining us for this particular conversation, Lebogang Mashego is Senior Programs Manager at away.org. Lebogang, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. Great to be here.
Xolani Fikla is spokesperson at the RTMC. Xolani, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and a point of correction, a spokesperson at the JMPD. Thank you.
Oh, at the JMPD. All right, apologies for that. And then Magda Reynolds is National Business and Development Manager at NICRO. Magda, good morning.
Good morning.
Lebogang, let me start with you. I made a point earlier on when we started the show that the problem that we have around drunken driving seems to be beyond needing campaigns of awareness and people not knowing the dangers of what they're doing. Mm-hmm. One gets the sense among South Africans that everybody knows they shouldn't be driving when they're drunk. Mm-hmm. It, however, doesn't stop people from taking the risk. What have we understood to be the underlying causal factor for that?
Thanks, Cathy, for that question. You're absolutely right. What we're seeing is that South Africans do know that they shouldn't be doing the wrong thing by consuming alcohol and getting into a vehicle to drive. The problem is our behavior. You know, we need to look at our behavior in South Africa. We have a culture of promoting irresponsible use of alcohol. I mean, there are so many examples that I can give you. For an example, there are social gatherings that we usually host at our houses, at our family houses, and we give people alcohol. We allow people to consume alcohol. And what do we do after that? We allow people to drive back home, right? That is not good. We need to change our behavior. We need to look at our own behavior in order to take care of one another. To me, I always say to my friends, if you host me at your house and then you give me alcohol, I consume alcohol, and there's no alternative transport for me to get home, you allow me to drive home, that means you don't really love me. You don't look after me. So we've been doing many campaigns. I absolutely agree with you. But again, we cannot just sit and fold our arms and not do anything, right? For us, if we can save one person's life, I think we will have done, quite a lot. Behavioral change is quite a lot of work. I mean, aware.org strategy basically is that the first step is that we need to educate and raise awareness about the program. the problem. Sorry. Secondly, we partner with law enforcement agencies like the JMPD and RTMC. We know that some of these law enforcement agencies do not have all the resources in order for them to do their work properly. So on behalf of the alcohol industry, we are funding law enforcement agencies to say, the people that do not listen to our messages, education, all our campaigns, then let's arrest them. They need to face the consequences. So we help them with things like e-bet machines. We help them with, resources that they need to do their roadblocks, with the message of, ensuring that people who do not listen, they are arrested. Then come in NICRO, who is also our partner. We work with them, which focuses on rehabilitation. I know it might sound like it's an after the fact, but also NICRO, Magda will talk about their programs. They've got education and awareness programs as well. But we ensure that the first-time offenders who are diverted by the court, they can go to NICRO and learn more about the dangers of drinking and driving. Hoping, and it's been, shown by the results that the people who participate in the NICRO program, they go out there, and spread the messages around the dangers of drinking and driving. So it really changes the lives of the participants of the NICRO program. So we really try, we are not only about having people arrested, we educate them, we raise awareness. It's not it's not an easy job, it's quite difficult, because to change someone's behavior, it doesn't happen overnight, it's something that it's more of a long term.
Xolani, in terms of what you see at the JMPD, what is it that you would say continues to fuel the behavior? And, your officers would be some of those that stop and catch many of these drunken drivers. And once they put in the police cells, I imagine that there's a lot of sobering up that happens. But how do they explain it? How do they explain why they're they're driving drunk?
Thank you once again, Cathy. What I can say is, and it's going back to what my esteemed colleague Lebogang did mention, it's culture and the behavior of our country, unfortunately. When he was saying that, I was thinking of days like the Puza Thursdays, the Mahodi Mondays, and people coming back from long weekends having consumed alcohol beverages and also engaging in such dangerous activities of hitting the road, being behind of a steering wheel on the public road whilst under the influence of alcohol. So it goes back to the culture that we do promote in our country, and it is important. I know that Lebogang mentioned that programs and awareness campaigns, it is important to always reach out, and especially to the youth, to remind them that these dangers are evident, they are happening, and we are seeing a lot of people either having serious injuries or losing their lives on the road. And that's why drunken driving is really a serious problem, and it can be addressed through different various forms. Firstly, it could be through effective enforcement, and that's where we play a very critical role, and also through education, but most importantly, through involvement of our communities, and that's where we collaborate with organizations such as aware.org, law enforcement agencies, especially when it comes to policies and the standard order of procedures when conducting targeted operations, and also with organizations like NICRO. But Lebogang did mention a most critical part of it is that this collaboration with organizations like this do enhance our enforcement when we deal with such incidences. When it comes to resources, he did mention the e-bat machine, and I know we also have received resources through the mobile alcohol evidence centers and the brick and mortar alcohol evidence centers as well, and this has made sure that our enforcement is efficient. We are seeing that nearly every week we do arrest over 100 motorists for driving under the influence of alcohol. It's a staggering number, but over the years we have seen that through initiatives that we are having with organizations like awake.org, those numbers are decreasing.
When it comes to the role of law enforcement, Xolani, and I want to maybe today, or at least just for this particular question, not focus on the role of, in particular, corrupt officials who often enable this kind of behavior. But I want to tackle it from the motorist part. It's not uncommon to hear people saying, no, I'll take the risk, and if I'm caught, I know that I'll just pay off whoever the traffic officer that stops me, and I know I'll be fine. And people are not worried about being stopped, taking breathalyzers, and being found to be over the limit. They're not overly worried about being thrown into police cells, because it does seem that at every point of the process, there is a way out if you're willing to pay.
That's a really deep topic that you touched there, Cathy. And I think it also goes back to the culture and behavior and perceptions that we do have within the country, through the judiciary system, through law enforcement, and especially when a person can take that chance and say, no, I'll see when I do get stopped and nothing will happen to me. And that's why we have a zero tolerance approach when it comes to drunken driving, and it will be a great injustice if an officer does come across that type of situation and lets a motorist go. And we do know that if such an incident does happen, that motorist can crash into a vehicle where there's a family of 5, and unfortunately in most instances then the drunken driver survives and the family of 5 dies, and that will be in the conscience of the officer. So it is important that our officers are ethical as well, and they make sure that these type of incidences they don't take lightly. And what we have seen is that when it comes to drunken driving, we do have a very, very tough approach, and that's why we are seeing a very large number of motorists being arrested within the city of Johannesburg day in and day out on a weekly basis.
Let me bring in Magda, who is with NICRO. Magda, Lebohang touched on the role that you play in terms of interventions and then also trying to rehabilitate people who have been on the wrong side of the law when it comes to this issue, and help them to really begin to change their ways. Before we get to your interventions as NICRO, help us to understand why it is that the visuals of, these cars that have been really smashed up into pieces are not enough to stop people from driving drunk. The threat of arrest and having one's careers or even reputation in tatters, it's not enough, clearly, enough of a deterrent to stop the behavior. So what is it that they tell you as they undergo these programs about why that behavior was something they chose in the first place?
Thank you very much, Cathy. So for NICRO, once we receive a referral from court, we do an assessment first, which is taking the person through everything that happened that led to the arrest and also their own history and background, so that we can see which services we need to slot them into. Because it isn't just a one-size-fits-all approach. As you mentioned now, not the images of the horrific car crashes or, the idea of being in jail, none of that really phases people, because everybody has this idea of, yes, it happened to that person, but it won't happen to me until it happens to you. And then, great is the horror and the shock, and you hear a lot of fighting, from them fighting with the police not to arrest them and saying, we're just part of you making target, to them fighting in court saying, go arrest the murderers. And then for us, it's bringing the point home that, listen, the death rate on the road is almost equal to the murder rate in this country. So you are very much a part of being a risk and possibly could have killed somebody or injured somebody. And then hearing what was happening for them, because yes, fair enough, a lot of the time it is that the education and the culture is the problem, where you would find somebody hears that one beer is the limit. Now, by one beer, people mean the 340 ml bottle that needs almost an hour or longer to get out of your system. Since manufacturers are manufacturing beer in liter bottles also, people take that as it is one, and it is not one, it's quite a few. And people would also think that if they had a party the night and they slept, then they're fine to drive the next morning, where the reality is you need about 16 to 18 hours for everything to really get out of your system. So a lot of people are also arrested the following morning. Then in the assessment itself, you would see that maybe, this person could have addiction issues, there could be trauma, it could be simply that it is the culture and the accepted practice in the family or the group of friends. And you need to see which services would then best address this, because a large part of it is the psychology underpinning driving. So a lot of people will say, yes, I'm a good driver, I did defense driving courses, I know all the fleet drivers have done, professional driving licenses and advanced driving courses. Those courses don't teach the psychology that underpin driving. To look at the broader factors such as who taught you how to drive, how does that inform how you're driving now? How does that inform you treating the other people on the roads? What are your thought processes as you're getting into the car? Are you upset about something? Are you angry? Are you rushing? All of those things have an impact on our driving behavior and our consideration of other people. So this isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. It's very multifaceted. And to do so, we have quite a lot of elements within our program. So it doesn't just speak to drinking and driving, for example. It speaks to all road offenses and then the psychology underpinning that. So we can start raising awareness there. And like my colleagues rightly said, it has a very good success rate in the high 90s of not seeing any reoffenders, and in fact sharing that information with their friend groups and communities also.
Magda, what I'm hearing you say is that what we actually need is a lot more holistic counseling of the country's drivers in order to deal with this, because it very much sounds to me that you do take the clients through a counseling process.
No, absolutely. And the best feedback that we get, we have people do a pre-test and a post-test so that we can measure the increase in knowledge or the decrease in knowledge or whatever happened before we deem them compliant. It's not to say that if you attend the program, you are automatically getting a free pass. You need to actually develop insight and learn and participate in this program for us to deem you compliant. And part of this, the end of the process of the program, is client feedback and program evaluation. And without fail, what they all say is, if I had had this information prior to me getting arrested, I would not have been in this situation. Okay. So we developed a program called Choosing the High Road that is the preventative one, that is for before an arrest happens, to prevent an arrest from happening. And now the ideal would be for, learners doing their learner's licenses or their driver's licenses, fleet drivers, professional drivers, even private citizens now going into the festive season to actually do that program. Okay, and it's Magda, such an available thing.
I'm going to pause you there. We'll continue the conversation shortly. It's time for your latest headlines.
Good morning to you with the news headlines at 11:30. Kemudupi Makhalemele. Joburg Mayor Dada Morero is expected to meet former Mayor Kabelo Kwamanda today following Kwamanda's arrest last Friday. Eastern Cape Education has confirmed the suspension of the writing of a computer applicants technology paper for matric candidates in the Kariega area. And International Relations has rejected claims that its demand for Taiwan to relocate its offices from Pretoria to Joburg was made under pressure from China. And those are your headlines. A full news update at noon.
Citizens of Manchester are highly motivated to cruise with a convincing victory against Southampton.
It's brilliant from Grealish, and Guardiola's up there as well, and City lead.
Meanwhile, the Saints are pumped up to fight for the entire match duration away from home.
It's flicked on, and again the Saints have the effort, and this time he does score, and we're back in the game.
This is the Premier League. Catch the exciting contest between reigning champions Manchester City FC and Southampton FC on Saturday 26 October at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
74 million rand in total estimated Powerball and Powerball Plus jackpots could be your ticket to the big millions this Tuesday. Play Powerball for an estimated 15 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 59 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda Pusha Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
We continue the conversation on the Talking Point. We're looking at drunken driving in the country and how best then we begin to deal with this particular behavior, how we change it. The key takeaways so far have been understanding our own culture as a society around drinking. So this view that we promote irresponsible drinking patterns, we promote irresponsible drinking behaviors. Your Puza Thursdays have come up, your Morodu Mondays have come up. We know how popular these are, but at the end of the day, they are a significant contributor to why we end up with so many people driving drunk on the country's roads. Lebogang Mashego is a senior programs manager at away.org. Xolani Fitla is a spokesperson at the JMPD, and Magda Reynolds is national business and development manager at NICRO. So then, coming back to you, Lebogang, Magda explained so well why they believe their programs are successful. If you were to invite all of the country's drivers today to go through some kind of training program for being more safe on the roads, unlikely that people would raise up their hands and volunteer to do it. But I think there could be clever ways in which drivers are incentivized to actually participate in programs like these.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I mean, incentivizing the drivers is one of the elements that I know most of our member companies, are doing in order, to get that attention from them and also to participate in the programs that we have. For an example, we've got what we call the Drunk Goggles Simulator, which sits on our website. It's a virtual experience, basically simulating the effects of drinking and driving. So in a virtual world, you go into a bar and then you order just one drink, and then after that you are expected to go and navigate a car. So that's one of the programs that we've been running, and then we offer rewards to the drivers, like at the end of the actual program. Once you've participated, then you will be rewarded with can be Uber vouchers, it can be like small things that really makes a difference. But what I wanted to say is that it's quite challenging working with our drivers in our country, especially when it comes to, drinking and driving. It's almost like you communicate a message to someone now, but when they walk out of the door, they've totally forgotten about, what you have told them. Mm-hmm. And it happens. I mean, Xolani spoke about the Mogodu Mondays, Phuza Thursdays. Nowadays we even go to the funerals, we ensure that we've got cooler boxes in our boot, so that after the actual funeral, there's aftercares that we participate in. Yeah. It's really a big problem, but yes, we work with quite a number of stakeholders. We believe in a whole of society approach. We cannot do this on our own, right? So we work with the driving schools as well. We work with the RTMC to ensure that when they interact, with learners at different driving school centers, let's bring in that content of the dangers of drinking and driving. I mean, many people will say, it's quite difficult to get a driver's license in our country. In other countries, it's even more difficult. It's not something that you can get like in a period of a month. You have to go through quite a number of learning experiences before you get your driver's license. So what will be great to see, in the near future is that, an alcohol content being introduced as part of the curriculum or part of the learning experience when someone goes through to get their driving license.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's perhaps one of the surest ways of being able to get more responsible behavior. Yeah. But I'm thinking also your car dealerships, your car manufacturers, they too could play a really important role in educating drivers.
You're absolutely right. So we've been in touch with one of the vehicle manufacturers to come into partnership with us, and it's really promising. They know that there is a big problem out there. I mean, their mandate can also, expand to texting while driving, which is another big issue. But, I mean, we share the same vision, when it comes to, seeing many people, dying on our roads, especially the young ones. We know that they... we did a campaign previously with soccer players, that they get quite paid a lot of money, and then they'll buy, these expensive vehicles, and, they get intoxicated with alcohol, go out, and then, when they go home, they get into a car, and then, the next thing you find out, the young person who was a promising star who can be playing soccer matches or football matches overseas has lost their life because of drinking alcohol and after that driving the car. It's really sad.
Okay. I want to bring in some of our listeners and their views to this conversation and how they think the issue of behavior can be addressed.
Good morning, Cathy Mohlahlana in Mpumalanga, but originally from Limpopo. Cathy, in regards to drinking and driving, I think it's an individual's responsibility to be responsible, because it'll never stop. We will stop drinking, then drive afterwards. One of your guests mentions only, going to a friend's house, giving them, they give you alcohol, now you have to go back home, then they don't love you. That means the government doesn't love us, sporting fraternities don't love us, because now we go to soccer matches, rugby matches, traveling from one province to another. Even if we book within that city, we'll still have to drive from the stadium to the place that we've booked. Otherwise, people drive from that stadium back home. You understand? Having them drink at the stadium. So drinking and driving won't stop. One will just have to drink and drive responsibly. I think that's the reality.
Good day, Cathy. I think one of the contributing factors of drinking and driving and irresponsible drinking, first, liquor has been glamorized. Everywhere you watch, it's in billboards, in the screen, in adverts. They make it looks like something cool. So people won't stop, indulging in liquor as long as it's being glamorized like it is at the current moment. And also bear in mind that the first miracle that Jesus did was to turn water into wine. So people, they take it as something nice and cool. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm a in Fall.
Good morning, Cathy. This is Anonymous in Pumalanga. South Africans don't need campaigns. They know what is wrong and what is right. It's just that the South African government is so wishy-washy. South African drunk drivers should be punished, you know. Not even this, using these terms of health accountable. They should be punished. If I was in charge of the situation, once I found you drunk driving, I take your license and I strap it and I lock you for a minimum of 5 years without bail. I mean, if such consequences were that harsh, how many do you think would still continue in this unsavory behavior? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for those WhatsApp voice notes. And again, an example of how easy it is for us as South Africans to justify our behavior. I mean, the one listener says, you can't stop drunken driving. You just have to drive responsibly when drunk. Now, is that even possible? Is that even possible? The point is that alcohol alters your way of thinking, alters your behavior. And this is precisely it. This is exactly why we have the problem that we do. Xolani, are there steps to try and consider harsher punishment for drunken drivers?
Yes, Cathy. I know in the not too far past, the government had proposed that drunken driving limits when breathalyzed or having your blood drawn should be at 0.00. At the present moment, there's still that limit where people are given a chance. But moving forward, I think it's something that should be looked into, knowing the dangers of such behaviors. And going back to some of the conversations, I've heard some people say they drive safer when they're actually under the influence of alcohol. So it's those type of thoughts that make a person think that will it be really easy for motorists to change their behaviors. So we really do need stricter enforcement levels that need to be put in. Of course, JMPD will continue with high visibility patrols throughout the city of Johannesburg, and unfortunately attending to accident scenes or complaints where drunken driving is suspected and it is involved, and also through targeted roadblocks across the city of Johannesburg, which is one of the strongest standpoints of making sure that we do take drunk drivers off the road and put them behind bars.
Magda, I want to bring you in here as we get ready to wrap up this conversation. You know, ultimately, we can talk quite lightly about it and even have jokes about it, but the reality is that lives are lost as a result of drunken driving. And the sense of recklessness that exists to me in our society on this issue is quite high.
Absolutely, and I think that is why the psychological aspect of this program and our programs are so important, because I hear and understand the viewpoint that, you know, let's do harsher punishments even for a first offense, let us imprison you, give you a criminal record, take your license. The reality is, if you take somebody's license, they're just going to drive without a license because that's how they get to work. If you incarcerate somebody for 5 years, after that 5 years, they're going to come out. They are most likely not going to be able to find work because they will then have a criminal record, which could potentially lead them to drinking more or then driving a taxi illegally or any type of vehicle they can find illegally, as that is the easiest way to then get an income. So all of these things have different repercussions, whereas if you can catch them early enough, especially with regards to the preventative program, and you can get this knowledge in, you can get the psychology and the knowledge and the awareness and everything right the first time, then you will have a situation where prevention is much better than cure, as we would say.
Okay.
And especially for our young people, I think it's really important.
All right. Thank you for that contribution. Lebogang, 20 seconds before we say goodbye.
Yeah, no, thank you for this opportunity. I would really like to say to South Africans, please, let's change our behavior. Let's not come up with excuses why we end up drinking and driving. The gentleman who spoke about finding ways to drive responsibly. I go to lots of soccer matches. Why don't you get a designated driver, to take you to a soccer match? Someone that that's not going to drink and drive while you are watching the game. Just get yourself that person who can be responsible, and then you will all arrive home safely. And please, let's also be a good example to our children, because they usually mimic what we do. Let's be safe this festive season, and don't drink and drive at all times.
Yeah. All right. Let me thank all of my guests for their contribution to this conversation. That's where we leave it for today on The Talking Point.
The book reading. Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised. SAFM presents another episode of A Life of Purpose, written by Luvuyo Wochela and Lumkile Wiseman Kuhlu. The reader is Lerato Velase.
The three presidents were fully conscious that they had to market the program in order to win support. They emphasized